Hello everyone and welcome to my B&B 724 YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe button and give this video thumbs up. Hope and Carter's ideal wedding is ruined by Daphne, fans of Bold and the Beautiful. Soon, Daphne Rose will return to the scene, and she might cause issues on the wedding day of Hope Logan and Carter Walton, who recently got engaged. We will discuss if Daphne will attend Hope's wedding and steal the groom when she returns to Los Angeles. Will Hope and Carter's wedding be chaotic as a result of Daphne's return to Forrester Creations? Daphne was recently summoned by Steffi Forrester to discuss Scent, and she was requested to return to Forrester Creations. Since Daphne is so popular with their audience, Steffi clearly wants her to return. Her upcoming men's cologne line would be a terrific fit for FC. For Steffi, it's really about business, you know. However, Hope is frantic and anxious about her relationship, which she believes ought to take precedence. And may I simply ask who holds hands like Carter and Hope did during a business meeting? Employees shouldn't be sitting and holding hands during a meeting with the co-CEO, even if I know they all lounge on the couches in the CEO and design offices. Simply put, it's not professional. Brave and lovely, Daphne destroys Hope and Carter's wedding. Soaked out. Brave and gorgeous, Steffi recuperates Daphne. Despite their initial apprehension, Steffi was able to convince Hope and Carter to support the return of Daphne. Carter then reassured Hope that she shouldn't be concerned. Additionally, he believes Daphne will honor their engagement. But I don't think so. Furthermore, Steffi doesn't believe Hope should be concerned. There, too, I disagree. Even while Carter and Hope ultimately came to terms with it, Steffi will likely encounter some resistance from that sector. Carter appears to be pressuring Steffi about not bringing Daphne back in this week's last episode. It sounds like Carter is attempting to dissuade the co-CEOs from bringing Daphne back in when he talks to her and Ridge Forrester about it. However, Steffi bluntly informs Carter that they will not allow Hope's sentiments to sabotage a wise economic choice that might increase Forrester Creations' profitability. In addition, Steffi is still trying to persuade Daphne to come back. Daphne's response and memories. Will she see Carter again? In case you missed it, Steffi informed Daphne that Carter and Hope were engaged. Daphne wasn't pleased to hear that, either. The cologne will sell without her, she added. She also reminded Steffi of her departure. Carter picked Hope when she fell in love with him. Daphne informed Steffi that she simply couldn't handle it. She is unable to continue thinking about Carter and work at Forrester. However, that's just what she did when Daphne hung up on Steffi. We saw all the flashbacks of her falling in love with Carter as she began to moan. Daphne had flashbacks to when she kissed Carter and he told her how amazing she was. Therefore, Daphne will not be able to avoid it. Her return to Los Angeles shouldn't be too far off. And since the actress had firmly maintained her place in the contract portion of the credit, I knew she wouldn't be leaving. I therefore knew she would return. And I believe Daphne would interpret Steffi's offer as a signal to return to Los Angeles and defend Carter once she has had a time to consider it carefully. After all, Hope and Carter aren't getting married tomorrow, are they? Therefore, Daphne might return for work, but she might be unable to stop herself from pursuing Carter once more. Will Hope's father step in to save her engagement in light of Deacon Sharp's disapproval? Meanwhile, Hope's engagement to Carter has angered someone else as well. That's Deacon Sharp, Hope's father. When Hope visits her father at the conclusion of this week, she shows him her engagement ring and informs him about the proposal. Instead of applauding Hope, it appears like Deacon will try to dissuade her. Hope is asked if she is certain about the engagement. Additionally, Carter was responsible for all of the trouble at Forrester Creations, as Deacon reminds her. That resulted in her termination not too long ago, along with other consequences. Deacon will therefore be pressuring Hope to think twice about getting married to him. Wedding crashes and second chances. Will Carter's past repeat? Naturally, Carter gave in to Daphne's temptation, and it appears that this will come full circle. Since the wedding probably wasn't going to happen for a while, Steffi will have some time to crawl her way closer to Carter after she persuades Daphne to come back. However, after Daphne's return, it's probable that Hope may become extremely paranoid and start preparing her wedding in order to wed him as quickly as possible. My ideal scenario would be for Carter and Hope to reach the altar before Daphne interrupts the wedding and takes Carter away from the bride. Daphne could definitely perform a trick similar to Quinn Fuller's. Do you recall that? That long ago, wasn't it? It was maybe 3 years ago. Carter was about to wed Paris Buckingham when Quinn stormed through the door, declaring her love for him and telling him, "Don't marry Paris. Select me." And you know what? In case you forgot, Carter took the wedding crasher and left the bride behind. This would be Carter's second wedding to be interrupted by a woman who is desperate to steal him if Daphne arrives up and does so. Will Hope and Carter make it down the aisle? Would Carter truly abandon Hope at the altar, as he did with Paris, if Daphne were to disrupt their wedding? As you recall, Carter and Quinn began dating while both were betraying her husband, Eric Forrester, who was his close friend. After a dubious beginning, Eric finally granted permission because he was experiencing such ED symptoms. It was really disgusting. Subsequently, Carter and Quinn cultivated a profound and intense bond. To set things apart, Carter hasn't known Daphne for very long. All they've done is kiss. She told Carter she fell in love with him, even though they haven't been physical. There is therefore something profound and intense, at least from Daphne's perspective. And once she has an opportunity to begin berating him once more, perhaps things will go that way for Carter shortly. However, at this point in time, I believe Hope would marry Carter and they would become husband and wife. Furthermore, I don't believe Carter would abandon Hope at the altar and flee even if Daphne suddenly interrupted, such as if the wedding were next week. Not quite yet. What bothers me is the yet. Daphne will have some time to work on Carter after she gets back. And after learning that Liam Spencer is dying, Daphne may even attempt to approach the situation from a different perspective and encourage Hope to become closer to him. Furthermore, it's possible that Daphne and Deacon will work together to persuade Hope to end her relationship with Carter. Thus, by the time Hope's wedding day comes around, Carter appears to be extremely conflicted and possibly divided between Daphne and Hope. That's a major recurring theme on Bold and the Beautiful. You know, the improbable conclusion. Will Hope inevitably end up back with Liam? Additionally, as I've previously stated, I don't think Carter and Hope will be endgame on Bold and the Beautiful. The first reason is that Carter never works out with anyone. Secondly, Hope usually returns to Liam in the end. Therefore, we know that while Carter was listening, she informed Liam that she loved him and that he was her future. 5 minutes later, Hope rushed to Carter to express her want to be with him. She responded, "Oh, no," to his statement, "No, Hope, I heard you talking to Liam." You simply misinterpreted. It was simply no. In any case, I'm curious as to whether Hope returned to Carter solely because Liam had shoved her and was dying. Because of Liam's incurable tumor, Hope currently believes there is little hope of a future with him. She wants to respect his wishes to see her settle down before he passes away. I don't want to imply that Hope doesn't have any feelings for Carter, but I do believe that she still views Liam as her soulmate, or, if you want to use that awful term, her destiny. Additionally, Carter might lose Hope even if Liam manages to survive the brain cancer, which is a very plausible scenario. Therefore, if Daphne shows up at Hope's wedding a few months later and makes a move on the groom, she might have a chance. Taylor recommends marriage to Ridge, Will and Luna's intimate meeting. According to the preview video for the week of June 23, 27 spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Taylor Hayes will surprise Ridge Forrester with a significant gesture that could have an impact on their future. In B&B's weekly preview video, Taylor confesses her desire to marry Ridge and gives him her own engagement ring. Ridge appears uneasy and unsure that this remarriage step is the correct one, but Taylor presses him to assure her that he wants that too. Since Nick Marone will be in the vicinity of this proposition, he will locate Brooke Logan at Forrester Creations and provide updates on the unexpected development. Brooke will question what Ridge said when Nick acknowledges that Taylor proposed to him by pulling out a ring. If Nick didn't stay long enough to find out, he might not know for sure. In any case, Nick might interpret this as evidence that Brooke has to stop thinking about Ridge. Nick will once more offer to be the man Brooke needs and give her a chance at a different future because he believes she deserves better. In the weekly commercial for B&B, Will Spencer also visits Luna Nozawa's flat and confesses that he ended his relationship with Electra Forrester because he doesn't find her exciting. Needless to say, this will most likely be Luna's fantasy of what may occur if Will decided to enjoy sizzling with her rather than boring Electra. In the teaser video, Luna is shown seeking assurance that Will enjoys danger before kissing him and nuzzling his neck. If Will is attempting to capture Luna in some way, he might actually be doing all of this, but at this point, the fantasy angle seems more plausible. With Will and their potential romantic relationship with Electra out of the way, Luna's imagination might go wild. Luna may grow more obsessed with robbing Electra of her man the more she fantasizes about Will. According to spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Luna will keep hatching plans to harm Steffi Forrester and target Hayes Finnegan. Don't miss any of the terrifying surprises that lie ahead. Brooke isn't over Ridge, Taylor realizes. According to previews for The Bold and the Beautiful, Taylor Hayes might soon come to understand what all Ridge Forrester and Brooke Logan fans have been saying all along. Before they get back together later this year, Taylor is going to understand that Ridge is still in love with Brooke. Will Taylor understand the truth at last? Brooke Logan is being punished by Ridge Forrester. Taylor is the woman Ridge wants to be with, and he has repeatedly said this to her. But it's clear that Ridge's deeds speak louder than words. Could Ridge so vote jealously of Nick Marone finally make Taylor realize that, despite what he may say, Ridge is still in love with Brooke? Ridge wouldn't care what Brooke and Nick did if he was over her. Ridge demanded payment from Brooke for participating in the Forrester Creations takeover. Ridge was not informed of Brooke's plans, but Brooke genuinely wanted to assist Ridge in regaining the fam. But Ridge knew it would devastate Brooke just as much as she had hurt him, so he raced straight to Taylor. Taylor Hayes knows something is up with Ridge Forrester. After returning home from work, Taylor sensed that Ridge was bothered by something. Ridge had undoubtedly witnessed Brooke and Nick conversing at the Forrester Creations. Naturally, Nick was aware that Ridge was trying to make him feel less than him. But when the two of them battled for Brooke's approval, Nick would only provoke Ridge to retaliate. Ridge was informed by Taylor that Brooke was an adult and capable of making her own decisions. Ridge asserted that he was entitled to point out that Brooke was wasting her time and that she was free to date anybody she pleased. Ridge intended to always let Brooke know if she wasn't engaging in activities he enjoyed. Does this cause Taylor to become anxious? Spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful. Taylor discovers Ridge isn't over Brooke. At last, Ridge Forrester acknowledges the reality. At last, Ridge will leave Los Angeles and be apart from Taylor. It appears like Ridge will truly understand the significance of Brooke to him when they are both out of town and alone together. Regardless of what he previously believed, Ridge cannot survive without Brooke. At last, Ridge acknowledges to Brooke that she is his fate. At last, Ridge and Brooke will reconcile and promise never to be apart again. What occurs when Taylor's broken heart tries to kill her again after a repeat reaction? Will Ridge return to Taylor to save her heart from dying of broken heart syndrome once more? Or will he remain with Brooke, where he knows he belongs, the forgotten son of Brooke? Bold and the Beautiful reminded fans of Brooke Logan's abandoned child, Jack Marone, now that his father, Nick Marone, is making a comeback to the CBS serial opera. B&B was unable to get Nick and Brooke to talk without bringing up their shared son, even though Jack is never mentioned. Well, sort of jointly, considering that Jack's birth involved Taylor Hayes, Brooke, and Jack. Nick Marone and Brooke Logan's forgotten son. Brave and lovely. Viewers were taken aback by the moment on Bold and the Beautiful when Nick Marone and Brooke Logan spoke about their son. It was also nostalgic for the longtime admirers who haven't heard or seen Jack in a long time. First, let's talk about Jack, who should be in his 20s at this point. But since this is a soap opera, he could be any age if he ever returned to Bold and the Beautiful. But that's probably not what the soap show wants to do. But it's likely that B&B couldn't have linked these two parents without at least bringing up their son. Well, if they ignored him, that would look pretty cold. As Ridge Forrester noted, Taylor Hayes and Brooke Logan do share that, as Nick Marone was also a part of her past. In actuality, Taylor gave birth to Jack in a bizarre B&B scheme. Taylor was dumped after Brad Bell revealed Ridge and Brooke's reunion, according to a bold and beautiful leak. Dirt from soap. B&B, Taylor Hayes gives birth and Jack Malone grows up. In 2007, Taylor Hayes gave birth to Nick's child in a separate Brooke versus Taylor storyline on Bold and Beautiful. But it wasn't so simple because the egg that was used belonged to Brooke, who didn't know it at the time. In other words, according to DNA, Brooke Logan is Jack's biological mother. An IVF error caused this to happen. Despite her best efforts to develop a bond with the baby, Taylor decided to let Nick and Brooke raise their biological son after the mix-up was discovered. Jack Malone was last seen by viewers of The Bold and the Beautiful in 2010 to 2011, when he was portrayed by the twins Morgan and Frank Gingerich. Nick, now a shipping magnate, gave a brief account of their now adult child, Jack. Jack didn't inherit his father's love of the ocean, he told Brooke. Instead, he pursues a career in fashion design, just like his mother, Brooke. At Forrester Creations International, Brooke has a handsome and audacious kid. Bold and the Beautiful viewers now know that Jack is employed in Paris by the Forrester family. The audience also learns that Brooke communicates with Jack via video messaging. Early Bold and the Beautiful spoilers for June 23rd to 27th. Nick torments Ridge. Dirt from soap. There was some discussion regarding Jack Malone in this week's Bold and the Beautiful episodes. They had no idea what to do. It would seem cold if his parents, Brooke and Nick, didn't talk about him. However, Taylor and Steffi both mentioned that Nick and Brooke had a son together, giving the idea that no one on TV forgot about him. But in an instant, we've found out where their son is now, what he does, and that he still keeps in touch with his parents, Brooke Logan and Nick Malone. Brooke claims that she regularly video messages their child. But since no one has yet to play an adult Jack on B&B, fans don't know what he looks like and probably won't for a while. That is, unless B&B decides to cast a young man in that role for whatever reason. Don't hold your breath, though, as that is unlikely to happen. Or at least that's what the soap's maker said. Casey Kasperzik, Bold's supervising producer, has previously intimated that Jack would be featured on the serial opera, and this week they did. He did, however, state that there were no plans to use him in a movie. According to Jack, this illusion is the only one that the CBS soap drama is likely to provide us in the near future. Ridge's life-changing ambush. Taylor's humiliating fiancé trap. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers for Monday, June 23rd indicate that Taylor Hayes will not allow her chance at happiness with Ridge Forrester pass her by. Now that Ridge is back, Taylor doesn't want anything, especially not Brooke Logan, to come in the way of their future together. Taylor is obviously concerned about Ridge's jealousy of Nick Malone's comeback. It's clear that Ridge is much too possessive of Brooke, which is shaking Taylor. In order to secure this revitalized Ridge chapter, Taylor will shortly engage in some thinking and develop a plan. Taylor will organize a life-changing ambush in the hopes that it will lead to her engagement. It would be beneficial, of course, if B&B would give Taylor some respect. Instead, they are getting Taylor ready for her embarrassing fiancé trap. Taylor plans to show Ridge the ring she got at a supper at Illinois Giardino. Taylor seems to be hoping that by pushing Ridge to the altar quickly, he will forget about Brooke and focus on her. Furthermore, Taylor may believe that becoming engaged would prove their love for one another and show Brooke that they are not supporting Ridge. Because BNB's preview video for the week of June 23rd to 27th offers a sneak peek at the upcoming proposal, fans are already incensed on social media. It's embarrassing to see Taylor go to such measures to keep Ridge away from Brooke. The scenario will worsen when Taylor pops the question because Ridge will respond awkwardly. After Taylor carries out her plan in the next episodes, Ridge may be reluctant to be married. Nick will ultimately have some news to share with Brooke, though, as he will notice the proposal when it finally materializes. Carter Walton may be able to assist Hope Logan in overcoming her Daphne Rose issues now that Steffi Forrester has pressed him to do so. The Bold and the Beautiful teasers indicate that Hope and Carter will discuss Daphne in further detail in the future. On The Bold and the Beautiful, it's often said that no character ever truly vanishes, and no plot ever fully concludes. That sentiment has never sounded more genuine than when Brooke Logan's long-forgotten son, Jack Marone, quietly makes an appearance through video chats in recent episodes. Even if his return is brief, it sets off a complicated chain of events that paces through strained relationships, past traumas, and the shifting sands of loyalty, envy, and unfulfilled promises, reaching all the way from Paris to Los Angeles. In the middle of the chaos of modern drama, it begins subtly, almost like a whisper. Nick Marone and Brooke Logan at Forrester Creations recently returned to Los Angeles. The situation is both sentimental and passionate as two people with complicated pasts find themselves reunited, but this time due of parental pride rather than passion. Nick then, almost as a cliché, mentions Jack. All of a sudden, the name that hasn't been spoken in over a decade reappears. It's like finding a long-lost artifact for fans, especially those who have been watching for a long period. But there are other factors at play here besides nostalgia. It's related to legacy. It's about forgotten sons, damaged families, and the price of secrets. A side element in the complicated Brooke-Nick Taylor triangle is that new fans are unfamiliar with Jack Marone. But for many who have followed the soap opera's intricate web over the years, Jack's journey is one of the most bizarre, tragic, and morally questionable stories in B&B's rich tapestry. Jack didn't have a typical birth. He was the product of an IVF era where Brooke's egg and Taylor's sperm were accidentally used for insemination. The result? Brooke and Nick were the biological parents of the kid that Taylor conceived and gave birth to. Finally, in a rare instance of parental maturity and tragic clarity, Taylor gave Jack back to his both parents. The psychological scars left by that decision, however, never healed. Today, Nick informed Brooke that Jack is an adult who works in Paris at Forrester Creations International. The young man has inherited his mother's creativity and design, rather than Nick's restlessness at sea. Brooke senses him even though he hasn't shown on television. Brooke claims that she frequently video chats with him to maintain a humble but loving relationship with him across the Atlantic. Viewers are more than just taken aback by this casual comment. It quietly alters the way B&B's universe is organized. Because acknowledging a character, Douglas, Kelly, Hayes, who has been in narrative limbo for over a decade in a society where children are routinely raised on screen in front of us, is a courageous move. Beyond merely bringing back memories, Brooke's life is enhanced by the return of Jack's name. It reopens the doors to a life that never fully closed. Now that Nick is back in town, there's also a little romantic tension between the two. Even when Nick and Brooke swear that their conversations are only platonic, the atmosphere seems to indicate otherwise. Brooke's voice softens as she speaks about Jack, and Nick's tough, seafaring demeanor softens when he speaks of their son. The bond formed by their shared history is rooted in their child and cannot be broken by time or Ridge Forrester. Ridge knows all of this, of course. He's not happy, either. Scenes that occur in tandem with Brooke and Nick's reconciliation allow Ridge's suspicions to simmer. Nick's homecoming also obviously upsets Ridge's current romantic interest, Taylor Hayes, who serves as Jack's surrogate mother. There are other factors besides Nick's actual presence in Los Angeles that is offensive to her. It's what he believes in, a history of betrayal. The child she carried could not be kept. She tried hard not to think about this version of herself. She and Jack share a complicated parental bond. Although he was not biologically hers, Taylor gave birth to him, fed him, and tried to love him. But it was too painful to know that Brooke's DNA was injected into Jack's veins. The trauma didn't truly go.